What's up, guys? Today I'm bringing you the next episode of this team building experiment, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you. There is no Razor Leafer on this team. But before I kind of explain why and how this team plays similarly to previous teams, I'd like to just bring up that I got some good news while I was on vacation. Player JJan did a compilation of all the previous leaderboards, and I found out that I actually have the highest average ranking in the world of any player on the Pokemon Go leaderboard at the end of season. So I kind of wanted to do a celebration video. If you guys can just leave a comment of 3 Pokemon that you'd like me to play a team with, I'll make a video just with all of those teams. A list of Pokemon that I either have powered up or I'm willing to power up can be found in the description of this video. So if you just leave a comment, audience participation is great. I'm excited to try some new teams and maybe find a diamond in the rough there. But yeah, it's good news because it kind of validates this team building experiment. It kind of shows that over the last 3 seasons, this team has been very consistent and kind of meta proof. So the goal of me trying to make this team as accessible to as many people as possible, it's kind of more justified now. So that makes me very happy about this. But let's get talking about Galvantula. So I actually played these games quite a while ago, so I don't remember many of them. It'll be as fun for me as it is for you just watching these new games. But Galvantula actually has very similar matchups to Victreebel. So the point of Victreebel on this team is to both resist fighting and to deal with Azumarill. And that's something that Galvantula does as well. So Galvantula is also fantastic in the 2-shield like Shadow Victreebel. So he can be very well used to kind of win switch advantage that Bastiodon so desperately needs. So you can see the first matchup here, we have Toxicroak in the lead, and I only have to spend 1 shield there to win switch advantage. With Shadow Victreebel, you have to spend 2, and you can see Azumarill comes in, which is an interesting choice because Galvantula, if a discharge gets through, absolutely chunks Azumarill. So they're going to spend their next shield as well, and they're going to swap out into Registeel. So at this point, they just give up. But Galvantula is another Pokemon that does tremendously against Registeel. Discharge chunks. Galvantula resists both of their charge moves, so perhaps performs even better than Shadow Victreebel in those situations. An Azumarill lead, so very favorable for both Galvantula and for Shadow Victreebel. They swap into Ferrothorn, and this is the advantage of a debuffing move. If you win the lead, it is much easier to kind of guarantee yourself switch advantage. So I charge up to another lunge, but now that they have been debuffed, I don't really need to shield these power whips. I'll just let them through, and Deoxys-Defense can just farm down, and this game is just looking very good at this point. So since this game is kind of, I don't know, pretty straightforward, kind of want to discuss why Galvantula, or where it might fall short of Shadow Victreebel. So Galvantula cannot do anything versus Stunfisk or Galarian Stunfisk. If you see one of those 2 Pokemon in the lead, the game is actually almost pretty much over. Galvantula makes up for it with some better matchups outside of that, like we saw with Toxicroak earlier and Registeel. But it does, Shadow Victreebel does give you a chance to win more games, but Galvantula can kind of like more solidly win the games that you are already going to win, or favorable leads. But I think there's going to be a couple of Stunfisk and Galarian Stunfisk leads, and the problem here is, especially with regular Stunfisk, which isn't as common, it beats every Pokemon on this team now. And Galarian Stunfisk, you really have to get Deoxys-Defense against it, which is fine if it's in the back, but if it's not in the back, then you're going to run into some issues. So as you can see, this game was quite easy. All 3 Pokemon up, still shield up. That's what happens when you win lead that hard and they don't really have an answer for the Galvantula. But I think there will be some more examples here too about how dominant Galvantula is in the 2-shield. The thing is with Galvantula, you have to know how many shields you want to spend on the fight. And because of that, you want to be shielding like the first moves before they get debuffed. So I throw a lunge here, and as you can see, it doesn't really do that much damage, but I know I'm kind of committed at this point. I can't swap out to Deoxys-Defense because then I'll have no answer, and I'm just shielding everything at the beginning because I want to get these lunges off. Volt Switch and Discharge are 8 times resisted, and to make matters worse, they have an Alolan Marowak here, also very good against this team, but luckily they bring it in to try and clear the debuffs off their Stunfisk, and I'm able to match up Bastiodon versus Alolan Marowak. The issue here, however, is that I don't have any shields for Bone Club, so I'm not going to be able to farm Alolan Marowak down, and I have to throw the Stone Edge. And unfortunately, this means that they can just completely farm down Bastiodon with Unovan, Stunfisk, and I'm not looking in a good situation right here. They have Switch advantage, Shield advantage, and neither of my Pokemon really deal well with regular Stunfisk. And we're going to see Azumarill come back in. I'm going to try and go for the lunge bait because I think that's my only chance at winning, and they don't fall for it. And at that point, the game is pretty much over. Galvantula is extremely frail. Despite not being a Shadow Pokemon, it really kind of feels like you're playing a Shadow Pokemon. And at the same time, I feel like Shadow Galvantula probably would not be good. You really need all the bulk you can get with a new lunge. So they swap out there, and I realize I'm hooped. Don't want to waste any more time. Into the next game. So you can kind of see that would have been a game where Shadow Victreebel actually might have guaranteed the win. So next game, as I talked about, Galarian Stunfisk, don't normally see too many of these, and they go into the Mew. So Mew is also a pretty good counter for Deoxys-Defense. Shadow Claw hits for super effective damage, and the unpredictable move pool makes you really not want to shield anything, because it could be a Surf, could be like an Ice Beam. Who knows what's coming? And I should at least be able to force a shield here, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter too much because they have a Galarian Stunfisk, and my best answer for it is kind of now gone. I think in those cases, you might want to stay in with Galvantula and just try and do as much damage as you can. Galarian Stunfisk is probably the worst situation lead. Luckily, a lot of people run it in the back, so it's not as widespread of a problem as it might be. Once shields are down, I might be able to get some flamethrower damage through. That's really the hope here, is I'm hoping that Bastiodon can do enough damage via flamethrower. We can get another one off, but it's still not going to be enough to faint the Galarian Stunfisk, and Galvantula comes back in. I just want to see how much damage a lunge does, so I can kind of start learning the matchups a little better, and you can see I don't even get to try that. So I let that lunge through, and it's a Skarmory. The reason why I don't want to deal any damage is to hopefully farm down with the Bastiodon and come in with another flamethrower. But Bastiodon is far too low, and even when Skarmory takes out a Bastiodon, you know you're in some trouble. So, yeah, once again, another example of Stunfisk lead just countering this team. And now we go back into the Azumarill lead, another favorable lead, and Shadow Machamp. So this is a switch in that Shadow Victreebel would absolutely love. I throw the lunge and then swap into Deoxys-Defense and elect not to shield. I know Rock Slide really hurts, but a debuffed Rock Slide doesn't really do too much. I decide to farm down because I know they have an Azumarill that they might bring in, and just throw shields, or one shield, to kind of prevent all my energy from going to waste. So I almost have 100 energy here, and they come in with Bastiodon. So I expected something else, a Galarian Stunfisk or something, and I wasted all that energy. So now instead of having a pretty easy matchup, honestly, I have quite a difficult one. Because now we have Galvantula, I have a shield disadvantage. I know I need to get to 2 discharges before they get to another Ice Beam, which should be possible. If you can see, I properly used my my fast move timing there. I threw 2 Volt Switches in between bubbles so that they didn't get an extra bubble. I'll make a video about that very soon. But I used lunge here, even though it doesn't hit Bastiodon very hard to debuff him so that my Bastiodon has the advantage even if they have shield advantage. So now Bastiodon in a 1v1 when the other Bastiodon is debuffed. Yeah, those flamethrowers tickle. You can see the smackdowns aren't really doing anything, and even though my opponent has a shield, they realize the game is over. So a bit of a mistake there by me not throwing Thunderbolt right away and just instead going for a Psycho boost for no reason. Maybe a bit of a mistake not throwing Thunderbolt at the Shadow Machamp to save myself a shield as well. But Galvantula is fine with shields up or shields down. It doesn't really matter. That's the other thing. It's you have more of a variable play style. And it's another thing I've learned from playing this team is that Bastiodon is actually very good with shields down. I've always kind of been trying to play shields up around Bastiodon, just because of Shadow Victreebel as well. But shields down, Bastiodon works fantastic as well. Here we have Galarian Stunfisk. Deoxys-Defense charge moves don't do anything versus Galarian Stunfisk. I shield the first one. First one is usually an Earthquake. They don't like to bait, usually, because usually people don't shield. And they do get an Earthquake through. But I realize I need to kind of start expending my energy. I can't just farm this guy down and bring all the energy into the next Pokemon. So I'm going to have to spend my second shield. But I realize that Galarian Stunfisk is kind of the biggest threat to my team. Now I'm double debuffed. They're going to come with Azumarill. I think I debate switching out here, but I want to retain switch advantage in this matchup, even though I'm down shields. So Deoxys-Defense goes down without doing too much damage, and switch advantage ended up being extremely important. Swap into Galvantula, and they immediately swap into Altaria. So why this is good is because Bastiodon is going to come in with almost 2 charge moves, so it doesn't really matter that they have a 2 shield advantage right now. Locking my Bastiodon into an Altaria matchup is almost the equivalent of a 2 shield advantage. Because look, Stone Edge here deals quite a bit of damage to Azumarill if unshielded. In fact, I don't think they can let either Stone Edge through, or it's just going to be too late. Yeah, they elect to do that, and I bring in Galvantula. I'm not sure if this was the smartest move. Play Rough doesn't KO, though. If that was a Hydro Pump, I might have been in some more trouble. I probably should have just let Bastiodon go for the next charge move, but either way, this ended up working out. Galarian Stunfisk on that team, but as you can see, it's in the back, so it worked out not too bad. If that was a lead Galarian Stunfisk once again, this would have been a much harder matchup. So Hypno, that's a Pokemon I have to swap right out of if I'm playing Shadow Victreebel. This time I learned from the last matchup. Galarian Stunfisk does a bit too much damage with his charge moves, so I decide to lunge, and not only does lunge debuff, but it actually did quite a bit of damage considering it was resisted. So I might actually stay in these matchups in the future. And because lunge debuffed as well and did some damage, I'm able to not have to Psycho boost and waste some of my energy and debuff myself. And I'm able to just deal quite a bit of damage to this Hypno and then swap out to my Bastiodon. They throw a Fire Punch there. They don't charge up, so I know this isn't a Focus Blast. That's the only thing you're really scared of on Hypno. And they're just going to keep throwing Fire Punches, and that's fine. I'm going to get to farm this Hypno all the way down and bring energy into the next matchup, which I'm assuming is going to be their Galarian Stunfisk. Even though it only has a little bit of health, I can't risk the Earthquake going off, so I'm going to throw a Flamethrower, get rid of that thing right away. And this is a Pelipper, so I haven't seen Pelipper's too often. I kind of panicked as soon as I saw the water flying, but I realized, guess what? I've got Galvantula and not Shadow Victreebel. Galvantula still goes down, but you can see how much damage those Volt Switches did. I just saved my shield. I wanted to see how much damage Weather Ball Water did to Galvantula, just for future matchup considerations, since I knew that once the Pelipper was that low, I had it in the bag anyways with Bastiodon. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of Azumarill matchups. Obviously, the Azumarill matchup is a bit better for Shadow Victreebel, as you can just come out of that with unlimited energy and only using 1 shield. I elect to go for the discharge. You can see after they threw their Ice Beam, I threw 2 Volt Switches and then the discharge. And that's kind of how you have to play it against when you have a 4 attack move versus 3. So they go into Shadow Victreebel, and I go into Bastiodon, kind of hoping that I can get farm down the Victreebel before they get to Leaf Blade, and I unfortunately cannot. And I know Leaf Blade does a ton of damage, so I'm going to shield that on my Bastiodon. I can't let that go through because then Azumarill will just be able to farm Bastiodon down. And instead now Azumarill is going to have to throw some energy here, and we're going to see a Hydro Pump come out. So Azumarill all the way down on energy. I know Galvantula is going to be able to come in and farm down and bring a ton of energy in the next matchup. And they swap into Alolan Marowak. So this is the one Pokemon I probably should not have lunged. Because regardless of the debuff, Shadow Ball is going to do a ton of damage anyways. I really should have went for the Discharge. I do think if I went for the Discharge, I would have won this game. But that's my fault for kind of not waiting to see what the next Pokemon is and just going for the charge move anyways. And as you can see here, they get to another Shadow Ball. I'm one hit away from getting a Psycho Boost off and actually winning this game. So unfortunate misplay from me. There are a couple misplays here because I am learning the Galvantula matchups. And I think the lead matchups are kind of the most important to learn, so, or the hardest to learn. So this is taking the longest for me. But Obstagoon versus Galvantula, this is a pretty favorable matchup. You resist counters, you don't resist Night Slashes, but it's fine. I decided to let one through to see how much a debuffed Night Slash does. It does a decent amount of damage. I probably should have shielded that one as well if I had known they were going to go for another, but instead they decide to just let Obstagoon go down and go with Marowak. And unfortunately, I don't quite get to that Discharge. That Discharge would absolutely chunk Marowak. There's a lot more damage than the Leaf Blade. So unfortunately, this Marowak has a couple Bone Clubs stored up, 4 times super effective damage against Bastiodon. I'm going to have to throw a Stone Edge to force a shield. Otherwise, they're just going to get a shield advantage off of me. But I'm going to shield this Bone Club, and I should be able to just farm them down. It'll be very close. They might, yeah, they do get the Bone Club off. And now it's going to be Deoxys-Defense versus whatever's in the back, no shields. And it's Cresselia. So I've never actually had this matchup before in a 1v1 with almost no energy advantage. I think a lot of it will come down to Moonblast debuffs, or if they're even choosing to use Moonblast. And we're going to see a Grass Knot come out. So that's pretty ideal for Deoxys-Defense. Actually, back-to-back Grass Knots. So this game will come down to the wire. Cresselia is very low, and I think I'll beat Cresselia to a Psycho Boost. And if this Psycho Boost KOs, then the match is over. If not, match is over the other way. So luckily, Deoxys-Defense with a 2-counter energy lead does win the Cresselia matchup. Otherwise, like those mistakes, like shielding that Bone Club, were costly. Oh, looks like this guy is taking a while to load. This is on 2 times P2. Yeah, I guess it didn't load in. I'm not sure if people are dodging certain matchups or if they're just not loading in, but all right, so Vigoroth versus Galvantula, another new matchup that I've never tried before. Vigoroth outpaces Galvantula. It's a monster to charge move, so obviously I'm gonna shield that up. Overtapped there a little bit, but I'm gonna throw out lunges, and I want to get these lunges out as fast as possible to kind of debuff. I like to shield again because I really want to win this switch advantage. I'm gonna throw the lunge out, and I know I'm gonna have to tank a Body Slam here, so when they throw their Body Slam here, they give me an entire free Volt Switch. So I'm able to make it to the next charge move, which I decided to throw a Discharge. It doesn't really matter which one I threw there. They're going to come with Skarmory. So at this point, this is really good. Every Pokemon on this team is actually not too bad against Skarmory. And they bring in Azumarill. So Azumarill, decent matchup versus my 2 Pokemon. I know Skarmory's not a threat, so I go up to a Stone Edge to throw that first so that Deoxys-Defense has a little bit of a lead here. And I know as long as I can feint this Azumarill, I'm in a really good spot with the Skarmory. Unless, even it has Flash Cannon, Deoxys-Defense can deal a ton of damage to Skarmory with a Thunderbolt if it gets to it, and it will, unless Skarmory decides to throw Brave Bird, and it doesn't. So this game is over as well. Luckily, this set, I don't think we saw any Stunfisk leads, and we end up with a 4 out of 5. So Galvantula honestly is doing a pretty good Shadow Victreebel impression. It kind of looks like it plays differently, but if you just look at the matchups on a whole, it's very similar. It's very good in the 2 shield. It's very good against water types. It's very good against fighting types. The main issue is, of course, the ground types. So now we have the Galvantula mirror match. It looks like my Galvantula actually wins CMP, which is odd because my Galvantula has very defensive IVs. But we have the same CP, so I wonder if that's on... They have a very high stat product, Galvantula as well. And as you can see, Whiscash here, my team does awfully against Whiscash. I'm going to charge up to a lunge, or 2 lunges. So this guy is double debuffed. I'm going to take the Mud Bomb, and I'm going to swap into Deoxys-Defense to try and farm this guy down. I really don't want Whiscash around at the end. Whiscash being part water only 1 times resist Galvantula. So it's not as bad as Stunfisk and Galarian Stunfisk. And I think there's a couple matchups with Whiscash lead as well. And it's definitely winnable. But they're going to come in with their Deoxys afterwards. Because I was able to farm down the Whiscash, I have a ton of energy, able to lower this Deoxys-Defense's health. Galvantula is going to come in with the lunge, and I'm going to come in with my Bastiodon. So this actually saved me a little bit. Deoxys-Defense with my Galvantula kind of low is kind of a big threat to this team, but because I'm able to get Bastiodon in, I'm able to tank a Thunderbolt and either burn a shield or just win the game here. They might be able to farm me down, but I still have my Deoxys-Defense as well as Galvantula, and I think I'm going to make the safe play, maybe, and go into Deoxys-Defense. No, I'm going to go into Galvantula, probably because I want to see how the matchup works, and I'm going to tank the Rock Slide. So I should be able to get to Psycho Boost before they get to their move, because they're running Rock Slide, Thunderbolt, and just finish that game. But yeah, that's how you play the Galvantula mirror. You kind of, if you are winning CMP, it's very important to win CMP actually in the Galvantula mirror because of the lunge debuff. If you're winning CMP, you can stay in. So this is Melmetal. I swap out to try and catch a charge move here, Rock Slide. Galvantula cannot beat Melmetal. If you tank 1 Rock Slide, you will faint, and they can tank lunges if they want to. So you lose shield advantage and switch advantage. So I swap out immediately, and they're going to go into Altaria. I had enough for a Psycho Boost, but it doesn't really matter because I kind of want this Altaria to be as healthy as possible so I can farm it down with Bastiodon. I know that I've kind of lost my only Melmetal counter for now. So I do need to be able to have flamethrowers to throw at this Melmetal. Otherwise, it's not going to be good news. And they bring in their Azumarill. I'm going to immediately swap into Galvantula. Because I have an energy advantage, because I caught the Rock Slide on Deoxys-Defense, I can actually beat this Melmetal to charge moves. So I'll shield a Rock Slide, and I accidentally over-tap there, but it luckily does not matter. I get to the Discharge, and Discharge does a ton of damage, and now they have a shieldless Azumarill versus Galvantula. So even though that was quite a bad lead with Melmetal versus Galvantula, it just shows if you just play around a little well, you catch some charge moves, you position your Pokemon in the correct order, you can still win those matchups. So Shadow Machamp, very easy matchup for Shadow Victreebel. Quite a bit harder for Galvantula. I know this is a cross chop, so I let it through because I think they made a mistake. But in hindsight, you still might want to shield that first cross chop. I'm going to get to another charge move here, and they already blew a shield on a lunge. So they're actually going to let this through. So I win switch advantage and shield advantage. They're down 1 shield. Which is not something that happens on Shadow Victreebel. You usually just win switch advantage. So I really do think they should have shielded that second lunge. But I got very lucky there, and I'm able to line up my Bastiodon versus their Abomasnow. But luckily for me, they also have a Drifloon in the back. So more Pokemon that are very good, or not very good against Bastiodon. I never shield the first charge move from Drifloon because it's the highest value for them to get an Icy Wind off at the beginning. So if they do go for a Shadow Ball first, they're losing some of their value there. And even though they did bait me with the Icy Wind later, I don't really care that much. I know the game is already in the bag for me. They don't really have a win condition. Unless they bait me with that Icy Wind first. So this set so far, 3 out of 5, or sorry, 3 out of 3, I think. It's been a very good set, but of course that can change. Oh, Meganium lead. I actually remember this game. So I didn't know the Meganium matchup. I throw a lunge here. So this is 6 Vine Whip equivalent. So I know it's a Frenzy Plant. But holy cow, even a debuffed Frenzy Plant hits so hard. I probably should have shielded the first one. I thought I was kind of catching them in the middle of something. I thought it was... they were trying to bait the Earthquake, but it didn't work out. But really, I should have just shielded the first Frenzy Plant. If I shield the first Frenzy Plant, I can actually win switch advantage there very easily. But luckily, they come into Azumarill. They have no shields, and I'm not sure why they come into Azumarill, as I'm able to get them extremely low with a discharge and a bunch of Volt Switches. They don't Hydro Pump me either, so I get greedy and kind of try and farm down. I'm not really sure I should have done that, or I maybe should have swapped into Bastiodon anyways, but they're going to come in with their loaded Meganium, throw the Frenzy Plant that they'd been saving before, and I just want to get rid of this Meganium, so I'm going to throw my Psycho Boosts. They don't have shields, so goodbye Meganium, but it really depends what they have in the back here, and it's a Registeel. So this is not a really good scenario. Focus Blast is not one-hit KO Bastiodon. That's how you know Bastiodon is such a monster. What kind of Pokemon can take a 4-time super effective Focus Blast and still live? Oops. So I actually click out of the game, but it really doesn't matter. Since I'm getting farmed down by Lock On anyways, I can tank this Flash Cannon and not survive. But this is one of those things where if I did shield the first Frenzy Plant instead of the second, I would have had enough HP to take down or force the Azumarill to throw a charge move at Galvantula, and I would have been able to take down the Registeel afterwards. So unfortunate play by me. We're going to see Tropius here lead. This is something you swap out right away of his Victreebel, but I throw the lunge, and I'm going to shield this first Leaf Blade as well. I learned my lesson from the Meganium previous. It doesn't matter if Galvantula resists the move. It probably takes quite a bit of damage still. So second lunge, it's double debuffed. I decide not to shield here. And it's an Aerial Ace, which kind of hits a little bit harder because it's not resisted, but it's kind of a worse move. So we're going to go down to the wire. And once again, I kind of misplayed this matchup. If I just shielded and matched shields, I would have switch advantage. And instead of having Deoxys-Defense into Umbreon, I would have had Bastiodon. And I end up tanking this foul play because I mistime my switch, and I do believe that comes back to haunt me. So now I have Bastiodon against Umbreon, which is a pretty favorable matchup. I can just farm up a little bit. I might have to throw a charge move just because Umbreon is also a defensive monster. These two Pokemon just have some of the best stats for Great League in the game. Umbreon easily tanks that Stone Edge, but I'm going to be able to farm up almost another Stone Edge or a charge move to bring it to the next matchup, and I do have a shield as well, but unfortunately it's Galarian Stunfisk. So I think I make another mistake here too. I swap out right away, and their Tropius still has a charge move, so I have to shield this unfortunately, and the Galarian Stunfisk also has a charge move. So well played to this trainer. They played it really well. I'm just going to throw my Psycho Boost. They're only single resisted versus the double resisted Thunderbolts. So I'm going to try and do as much damage as I can so that Bastiodon can maybe come in at the end and finish off the Galarian Stunfisk. But it looks like they've charged up at least a Rock Slide, if not an Earthquake already. It's hard to tell with all those Psycho Boosts, and it's just a Rock Slide, but that's enough to take out Bastiodon. So another unfortunate game where I kind of mess up the lead matchup because I'm not comfortable yet. I was too scared to go down 2 shields against Tropius, but now I know that in the future I can do that and kind of guarantee switch advantage and kind of force them to throw 2 shields as well. Same with the Meganium. those grass types I'm just not used to. And yeah, I have a bit of trouble catching this Mudkip. Gonna use some berries and finally catch him. So a 3 out of 5 set. I think we had a 3 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, and a 3 out of 5 set. So Galvantula hasn't lost a set yet, which is nice. I'm not just like showing every Pokemon I try, by the way. Like if there are failures, I haven't been showing them. So it's not like I'm just consistently winning all these games. The teams that I'm showing are ones that are winning more than I usually do with some of these replacements. So Alola Marowak lead. Alola Marowak is a huge pain for pretty much all iterations of this team. And I'm going to come with the Bastiodon here and try and farm this guy down. I know I have him locked in because, sorry, it wasn't a lead. It was a counter swap to my Deoxys-Defense. And I'm going to eliminate the Alola Marowak lead, but they do have switch advantage still. And I don't think the Abomasnow versus Galvantula matchup is very good when shields are even, but they are shield down. So I'm going to throw this lunge here, and they're going to let it through. So now they're debuffed. I have to think about whether I want to use this shield here on a Weather Ball, and I do, and I'm not sure this is the best play. I know this Azumarill has a shield. I decide, because I failed a lunge bait before, to go for the discharge. He calls the bait, and my Galvantula goes down, and I know I'm hooped. They can just farm me down. I can't deal enough damage, even if they're running Play Rough and Ice Beam, to win that matchup. So a bit of an unfortunate play from me there, but so we see Whiscash here. Whiscash lead versus Galvantula. So after I've played this, I kind of learned that Galvantula wins the 1 shield, but it loses the 2 shield against Whiscash, which is very interesting. I don't think myself or my opponent here actually knew that. So you're going to see how this works. I'm going to shield the first 2 Mud Bombs. So I'm going to go down 2 shields to 0. But now that they're lunge debuffed, I'm going to try and farm them down and have to take another Mud Bomb. But Mud Bomb doesn't do very much damage, especially double debuffed. So, well, after the lag, you're going to see that I win this matchup, but I had to spend 2 shields and they spent none. But I do end up getting a shield back on the Hypno, and I actually might end up getting 2 shields back on this Hypno. And he's double debuffed, so I'm going to bring out Bastiodon. They're going to swap out right away, of course. So because they spent both their shields on their Hypno, the 0 shields between Bastiodon and Shiftry is actually very good for Bastiodon. So this is where I started learning that Bastiodon with shields down is actually extremely good, way better than I expected. In the 1 shield with Shiftry, Bastiodon sometimes loses that matchup depending on how much energy there is. But in the 0 shield, Bastiodon survives with 60% of its HP. So I won't actually need to go into Deoxys-Defense in this matchup. And that was going down 2 to 0 shields with Galvantula and lead to Whiscash. So Whiscash lead into Galvantula, I didn't even need my 3rd Pokemon. That's how strong Galvantula is in the lead position when you're willing to commit shields to it. And Deoxys-Defense and Bastiodon are both Pokemon that really are tanky enough that you don't really require shields to play with. So we're going to see a Shiftry lead here. I remember this game too. I really didn't know how to play this lead. I know Shiftry outpaces Galvantula to charge moves, but Shiftry also takes 4 times super effective damage from lunge. So if a single lunge lands, it's game over. The problem is Shiftry outpaces Galvantula enough that they end up being 2 charge moves ahead. So we end up both going down 2 shields, but unfortunately I'm not able to win this lead matchup because look, they get to another charge move before I'm able to get to that lunge, even though my Volt Switch is in the air. So I come in with Deoxys-Defense, which is probably not smart on my part, but they immediately swap out. So that's a bit lucky for me. Deoxys-Defense, an amazing counter for Bastiodon. The other advantage of Galvantula is they don't realize you're running this the Shadow Victreebel-esque team. Like, they don't realize there's a Bastiodon on the back. That's the problem with the Shadow Victreebel teams is people have learned them and they kind of know what to expect in the back. When you're switching up the lead, it kind of changes the identity of the team more. So when I swap in this Deoxys-Defense from Galvantula, they don't just expect a Bastiodon. So they reveal that their last Pokemon is Skarmory, which is fantastic for me. I might still be able to salvage this matchup, but Bastiodon still has to deal with Shiftry, only takes 1 Leaf Blade, and they just give up. So Skarmory is obviously not running Flash Cannon. They might have stated that. They could have maybe won if it was running Flash Cannon. But that was just lucky for me that they kind of misplayed that matchup and brought in... they could have just kept the Shiftry in and dealt a ton of damage to my Deoxys-Defense. So Azumarill in the lead. I'm going to go for the Lunge Bait. And I actually get it this time, so that's pretty huge. I'll still shield a charge move. Regardless of what it is, it deals quite a bit of damage to Galvantula, and they're going to swap into Abomasnow. So this is an interesting swap for them, because I have an energy advantage. I actually could have probably stayed in and got another Lunge off. I know the Lunge doesn't one-hit KO, as we saw from a previous matchup, but it does quite a bit. But I decide that because they have no shields, and I don't have to spend shields on Bastiodon, I can just stay in and farm up nearly 2 charge moves. Stone Edge is a great move. I kind of expected the Azumarill to come back in, but this time I did wait to throw my charge move, and it's a Medicham, which is kind of annoying for this team. Although Deoxys-Defense can deal with it pretty well. You see some lag there, but weak connection. Yeah, there we go. I disabled my Wi-Fi mid-battle. I think I was having some issues, but as you can see, they have no shields left. Azumarill is going to throw a Play Rough, so because they threw a Play Rough, I know they don't have any energy. I'm able to just farm them down, and I can bring in whatever I want into the Medicham matchup. And Medicham is not tanky enough to deal with any of Galvantula's charge moves, and I still have pretty much a full HP Deoxys-Defense as well. So pretty easy game there, despite the weak connection enemy, probably the biggest counter to this lineup. Yeah, just had some error finding matches. I don't know. GBL was very weird. I think this was a couple days ago, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. I was having some connection issues. So Skarmory versus Galvantula. This is a matchup that you immediately get out with Victreebel. I'm gonna shield. So I think it's a Brave Bird, but I wasn't really counting moves either. The reason I swap out despite Galvantula, in my opinion, having a decent matchup versus Skarmory is because every single Pokemon on this team beats Skarmory. That's what's so nice about it. You might lose to the Stunfisk leads, but Skarmory anywhere in the lineup is very favorable to this team. Just because of that, and because of how easy Skarmory is to get and how common it is, you can really leverage this into a lot of winning matchups. So Azumarill very low. I go into Galvantula to try and farm down. I know I'm gonna have to shield because it's gonna be a Hydro Pump anyways. I think they might expect the Bastion at that point too. But now I have a lot of energy. So I'm gonna throw the Discharge. I think I can burn the shield, if not just KO them, and Registeel comes out. So Registeel might be the worst case scenario in the back here. I'm going to try and get to a Discharge before they get to another charge move to kind of solidify this victory. If I can get to this, then Bastiodon should be able to get to a Flamethrower. But they're going to throw a Flash Cannon. Even though it's resisted, it does quite a bit of damage to Galvantula. I'm going to swap out right away. I don't want this Registeel to lock on down Galvantula. I need Bastiodon to have a fresh fight versus it so it can survive the Focus Blast, which is insane, by the way. That's absolutely insane that it can survive something like that, and throw the Flamethrower for the win. If Registeel does manage to get to another charge move to KO Bastiodon, you can come back in with the Galvantula. Alright, so honestly, Galvantula did really well there. I don't think I lost a single set. Like, a minimum 3 out of 5 with Galvantula throughout all of my sets. It honestly performed way better than I kind of expected. This was kind of less of a, there's a little bit of theory crafting involved, but more of like a what if I tried this. So I'm glad it worked. You can definitely try Galvantula. It's kind of a flavor of the month Pokemon right now. In the last couple days, people might have learned to play against it a little bit better because of how powerful Lunge is. But give it a shot, try it out. And once again, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to participate in the World's Highest Average Leaderboard Celebration video, just take a look at the Pokemon in the description. and kind of just form a team of 3 and just post them in the comments. And I'd love to run them or try them out. Make good teams, bad teams, I don't care if they're good on purpose, bad on purpose. I'm just excited to try out some new teams and maybe find some good ideas for teams in the future that I can run. And as always, if you like this kind of content, there's 3 more videos coming right away within the next couple of days. So be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can see when they're coming. I think a little bit of a preview. We got Sealeo, Melmetal's back as a switch, and I think Meganium as a lead to try out a non-Razor Leaf or Grass type to kind of just prove what works and what doesn't. So yeah, thank you for watching.